والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Don't record them.
بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيامة يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا غريب كربلاء. رزقنا الله في الدنيا زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا والقبر والآخرة. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه وقرآنه المجيد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والله جعل لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا وجعل لكم من أزواجكم بنينا وحفظة ورزقكم من الطيبات، أفبالباطل يؤمنون وبنعمة الله هم يكفرون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, our series of discussions have reached an 11th night, and my condolences to you, brothers and sisters, and to the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, on the martyrdom of our third infallible leader, Imam al-Hussein ibn Ali, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Sallu alayhi bi'a'la aswatikum.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Tonight, what I would like to look at is something that in the 21st century is becoming more and more rampant than it was in the 20th century, which is more and more rampant than it was in the 20th century, and that is family relationships and how strained they have become, how difficult they have become, how toxic almost they have become, unenjoyable they have become. And look at this from a Qur'anic point of view and see if there are ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left for us such that we can repair these relationships. The ayah that I quoted at the beginning was from Surah An-Nahl, which is the 16th surah of the Quran, from ayah number 72. That ayah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Wallahu ja'ala lakum min anfusikum azwajan wa ja'ala lakum min azwajikum banina wa hafaza وَرَزَقَكُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ أَفَبِالْبَاطِلِ يُؤْمِنُونَ وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. Here in this ayah we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a couple of different key points, but it's not an easy one-to-one relationship. He's not giving us a simple comparison or even a simple contrast. He's giving us something pretty difficult to chew on, and it's upon us to go and make the connections and then almost see a puzzle and become bewildered by that puzzle because of our own lives and experiences and the lives of our leaders, the prophets and the imams. And then, inshallah, we can, within the course of this presentation, solve that puzzle and change our worldview Islamically so that we can see how we should be viewing our family members. When we look at the family structure, we see that it's strained for many people, sometimes across a generational line. And this sometimes is epitomized sometimes between the father and the son. How many father-son relationships have been repaired just in the recent years because of the rise of someone named Dr. Jordan Peterson from, I believe, the University of Toronto, right? How many heart-moving, heart-wrenching stories has he told where someone has come back to their father and they now have a beautiful, functioning relationship with dad. Sometimes this is between daughter and mother. Sometimes, because the ayah of the Quran says hafadha. Hafadha, let's translate what the ayah says first and then we'll look at hafadha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah is the one who from your own selves, جَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. From your own selves He has made spouses. Then He says, وَجَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ بَنِينَ. He has made children for you from these spouses. Okay, so far so good. Everybody in the world knows that. You don't need Quran to tell you that. But then He says, وَحَفَظَ. And this is where the translations sometimes differ. Sometimes it's servants around you, those whose service you benefit from, and in whose company you are in. We'll look at this more closely. Hafadha's other translation, also correct, is grandchildren. So Allah has given you children and grandchildren from your wives. Still, I'm not seeing anything really life-changing yet. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَزَقَكُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. And He has given you rizq from all good sources. Okay, so already I'm supposed to be making the connection between my marriage, my children, my grandchildren, and that this is good rizq for me. Okay, already some of us might have a little bit of a problem over here. I'm supposed to see my spouse as something good. This is rizq for me. This is rizq tayyib for me. This is good for me. I don't know about everybody's wives, but the stereotypical husband-wife relationship is one where one side at least is unhappy. There might be some nagging here or there. That there might be some kind of unhappiness from here or from there. Hafadha does not just mean grandchildren. When we say that it means all those around, it's everyone who you have gained through this marriage. Meaning, if you were ever looking for an ayah from the Quran about in-laws, your in-laws are also a good rizq for you. Now everyone's probably thinking, wait, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. One of those that I've mentioned, someone has a problem. Like, I don't know, like I went into business with them and something sour happened. Or the mother-in-law has something to comment. Or my grandchildren have something to comment. Or my son or daughter has something to comment. It's not a happy relationship. Someone somewhere is unhappy. And let's say, inshallah, you have a good family, then your trial is somewhere else. Maybe it's in rizq, maybe it's in finances. But usually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed a test somewhere in one of these family members. So hafadha is going to be something really interesting in this analysis. then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throws somewhat of a curveball in only a way that Allah can. You see, when we look for simple contrasts in the Quran, we're looking for A and its contrast is B. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes does is He gives you A and then He says, here's the contrast. U. The letter U. How is U even remotely related to A? What is the U in this case? Let's give it a little bit of an easier letter. X. Okay, X. A's opposite in this ayah is X. What is X? أَفَبِالْبَاطِلِ يُؤْمِنُونَ وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. So you really are going to go and believe in false things and do kufr of the ni'mah of Allah? Hold on. I thought Allah was telling me about family. How did it all of a sudden turn into something as if Allah is talking about shirk? I get that if Allah was talking about idols. I get that if Allah was talking about, like how we mentioned a couple of nights ago, culture or what you go and follow, your whimsical desires, instead of what Allah puts in the Quran. Yeah, okay, that I can understand. أَفَبِالْبَاطِلِ false ideas. What does that have to do with family? My wife, my kids, my grandchildren, my in-laws? What does that have to do with belief and disbelief? So already we're setting up this presentation to be as important as our 7 golden responsibilities, where we looked at what Imam Sadiq said, that if you are deficient in any one of these rights, you are kicked out of the wilayah of Allah. This is something about Iman and Kufr, not just your family, which is why it deserves your utmost attention. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. Here, kufr is not just supposed to be understood as disbelief, but kufran al-ni'mah. Yani, you are ungrateful for something that Allah has given you. So let's look at this. Because if Allah is claiming that these people are placed for a purpose, and we see, now, you have a choice, brothers and sisters, you always have a choice with every ayah of the Quran. You can just read it in Shahr Ramadan and just move on from ayah number 72 to ayah number 73 and not benefit from it. Or you can look at it and you can understand a little bit of it and then ask a question. This must be for people who have good wives, good children, they have, good in-laws. There's some unicorn out there. This is who Allah is talking to. But Allah never makes that distinction. That, by the way, this is for those of you who have good spouses, good in-laws, good children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows more than any of us the problems that we face at home. Sometimes from parents, sometimes from in-laws, sometimes from children, sometimes from grandchildren. Allah knows this better than probably we even know it. And He looks at even His representatives. He looks at the likes of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and sees that he has a wife and a son who are problematic. He sees a prophet like Yaqub and he sees that 10 of these children out of his 12 sons are completely going astray, and yet he still says you have to be thankful. That's interesting. We see with our own Prophet, Sallu alayhi wa ala aswatikum. A louder salawat for the love of your Prophet. That even your Prophet has problematic family members and his wives. Right? We don't believe that Aisha and Hafsa, or even, for example, other wives such as Sauda, we don't believe that all of the wives are cut from the same cloth. Some are better than others, some are worse than others. This is why Surah Al-Ahzab, ayah 29 through 33, talks about different households. This one is good, this one needs threatening, this one is Ahlul Bayt, they're not the same. But regardless, now we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, جَعَلَ لَكُمْ. Now He's the one who's appointing for you. Meaning, astaghfirullah, what is this? The Quran is saying that my mother-in-law was chosen for me? My father-in-law was chosen for me? My brothers and sisters-in-law were chosen for me. My wife, astaghfirullah, was chosen for me. I thought we were not compatible. All I hear is, why isn't this done? Why isn't that done? What about this? What do you think about this? How many husbands? And on the wives' side, how many husbands are like, oh, he doesn't understand me. He's just, he doesn't listen to me. I'll be talking, and then I go and ask him, what did I say? And he says, huh? You were talking? I'm sorry I have to throw some of the brothers under the bus, but this is our reality. Some of us might even be hoping that if our phone rings or text message comes, I hope it's not from that person. Because if I hear that this family member is coming over, they're going to be inspecting the bathroom like this, and they're like, oh, okay, I see. This is the type of cleaning that you do when I come over. They're very judgmental. And I can see from some of your smirks and the repressed laughs, this is not something that is foreign. Why then are we seeing that Allah is saying, I put them there for you in your life? And this is something that is a ni'mah. Are you then going to believe in batil? And from my ni'mahs you're going to do kufr? You see the puzzle. Allah is talking about iman and belief towards the end. And what's the sign apparently? Families. So this is not something that Allah is just talking to the people who have good wives, good husbands, good children, good grandkids, good in-laws. This is for us. You and me, brothers and sisters, who have to go and work through the real world, who have real family relationships. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ جَعْلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. Let's analyze this first. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made from myself this spouse, that means that I cannot view this spouse as my enemy. If every fight I see it as, and I'm giving this as, I hope everybody understands when I talk from the minbar and I say you, the community, it's not about you or the community, it's just the Muslim ummah or the hypothetical you. Right? And when I say you and I'm not actually talking about my own personal experiences. Right? I'm talking about the hypothetical I, right? So when I and my wife, let's say, have a dispute, I'm not supposed to see it as an enemy or someone versing me. I'm supposed to see her as my ally. And who's my actual enemy? Shaitan, for example. And I'm supposed to see her as someone who's supposed to come to a common conclusion with me, and then we both go together against Shaitan. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I made her from the same substance I made you from. She's not Shaitan. And for the wives, by the way, your husband is also not Shaitan. I helped out the brothers, a few of them at least a little bit here. They're not Shaitan. Meaning that when you hear something, let's go towards the end of the ayah. What does he say? أَفَبِالْبَاطِلِ. What's the batil concept that a wife might have towards her husband and a husband might have towards his wife? Let's quickly turn to Surah Yusuf and the brothers of Yusuf. What do they say about their father? They say, Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. No doubt about it. How? I don't know how. You can say this about your father. Not only a father who's a prophet. Not only a prophet, he's the son of a prophet. Not only the son of a prophet, the grandson of a prophet. Who was his grandfather, brothers and sisters? Khalilullah Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's the grandfather of Prophet Yaqub. His sons are not mushriks. And yet they're saying about their father. At the very outset of this surah, Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. Inna is already an harf at-tawkid. It's something, no doubt, definitely our dad. Lafi is something that we see in Surah Al-Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Is most definitely drowning in. What is Yaqub drowning in? 10 brothers of Yusuf. Dalalin. Some immense amount of misguidance that is mubin. It clarifies everything else. That's why he has this love towards Yusuf and his brother. In La Yusuf wa akhuhu, right? This Yusuf and his brother. Look how beloved they are to our father. You know why? It's because our father, he's so befuddled, he's so misguided. How do you say that about your father? How do you say that about your messenger, your prophet, at least, if he's not a messenger? How do you say that? The batil belief over here, brothers and sisters, is that once they have put this label on him, Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin, now nothing from his mouth is ever going to be accepted. Whether he goes and announces that Yusuf is the prophet after me, he's my successor after me, they will not want to listen. Such is the reasoning why certain companions, even when Rasulullah day and night is saying Ali ibn Abi Talib is my successor, they're like, yeah, but he's just saying this out of his, relationship to him. I mean, is this from Allah or is this from you? Because they have this batil belief, they have this label on him, and anytime he talks about Ali ibn Abi Talib, Quran says it. Quran says that you've become a udhun. قُلْ هُوَ أُذُنٌ لِلْخَيْرِ. You've become just an ear. All you do is listen to this Ali ibn Abi Talib. Say that he is an ear for good for you. This is a good thing that you should be doing too. You should be listening to Ali ibn Abi Talib as well. But when you have this batil belief about a family member, then this isn't something that Allah Ta'ala just went and said, by the way, this happened once in history with one family, it's a prophet's family. It'll never happen to you guys. No, it will happen to you guys. What will happen? Maybe between a wife and a husband, everything he says, everything she says, just ignore. Let me just go to my friend's house. Let me just go to the bowling alley with my friends. Let me just go and play Xbox for 5 days. There was someone, by the way, in our community, the wife had to go and send out a search party. Where did my husband go? Eventually they go and find him. He's at his friend's house playing PlayStation 4. This is before the days of PlayStation 5. Playing PlayStation 4 for 5 days consecutively. He hasn't been seen at work. He hasn't been seen anywhere. I don't know how many salahs he's missed. She, from our community. And they go and find him. She went and filed for divorce. She was like, where did you go? You just forgot about your whole entire reality, your existence. You forgot about me. If there were kids, you forgot about your kids. I mean, all that was, in your life was PlayStation. I swear to God, if people cared about Imam Hussein that much today, where would the world be? Now, Afa bil batil, coming back to those relationships, if you have that batil relationship, or at least that batil thought, towards this wife of yours, Allah has said, I made her from you, min anfusikum. Meaning, just like how you are human, she's a human too. She's not a demon, and you're not an angel. Because often, without thinking it explicitly, without saying it, I become the angel, the other person becomes the demon. Whether it's wife, whether it's mother-in-law, whether it's father-in-law, whether it's brother-in-law, whether it's father, mother, child, grandchild, because we'll come back when we come to grandchildren to Nabi Yaqub and we'll see how his grandchildren treat. But if you have this relationship and you have this batil idea that you formed, that this person is the devil, and I don't have to listen to anything they say, you have dehumanized them. If you dehumanize them, how are you ever going to listen to what they have to say? How are you ever going to resolve, come to a resolution, and finish something between you two? How are you going to ever do that if you don't even see them as human? As someone with emotions. That, oh wow, how does she not see that I'm getting hurt? Well, have you ever considered she might be hurt? No, all she does, she just nags. She just wants to make my life miserable. She doesn't want me to have fun. She doesn't want me to, this is a common excuse that I've heard a lot of times, she doesn't want me to serve Ahlul Bayt. She doesn't want me to serve the community. Have you ever considered that you don't need to be the one who's setting up the chairs every single day? You could go, you could go and delegate to someone else. Someone else can also go and take a look. But 6 hours a day you're at the masjid. 7 hours a day. There's no balance between family and khidmah. This is not an excuse. Maybe 7 hours a day is, a little bit excessive. And she has a little bit of right that she's trying to claim back. When he says, وَجَعَلَ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ جَعَلَ لَكُمْ, for your sake. مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Why for you? So that you would be able to connect with this person. So that you would be able to learn from this person. So that you could benefit from this person. So that you could be put back into balance by this person. Because Allah wants a well-rounded person. He doesn't want... Remember that story, brothers and sisters, of Rasulullah walking into the mosque and seeing someone who all day, every day is just praying. He says, who's taking care of his family? Says his brother. He says, he's getting more thawab than him. I have a family too. I'm not in the mosque all day praying and doing dhikr. There's a balance. Maybe this was the person who, maybe in your bachelor life, you were doing 24 hours a day. You were studying over there, taking out food and bringing it back to the mosque. Maybe it wasn't even the mosque. I'm giving benefit of the doubt for the mosque. Maybe it was somewhere less halal than the mosque. But maybe this person was sent because he/she could balance you out. So that you now have responsibilities at home too. Then we see وَجَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ بَنِينَ. Now this is going to be troublesome. Because in every community, I think I can safely say, children are not listening to their parents. Children don't want to come to the centers. Children, and when I say children, I'm talking about even about 40-year-old children, right? Not just teenagers or young kids. Don't want to listen. Think that their parents are disconnected with the current generation. Think that their parents don't have anything to offer. Parents, on the other hand, think that their kids are possessed. That's why they can't be listening to me, otherwise we did everything we could. Parents think that we've lost our chance with them. It's a dire situation. We're seeing our kids slip away from us before our very eyes. And if we're not, our kids are too young, we're seeing it happen to others, our friends, other family members. And sometimes you look at your parent or look at your child and you think, how are we related? Sometimes this happens between brother and sister. How are you and I even brother and sister? You are a star at school, you are a valedictorian, and me, I just like playing video games, and I like Harry Potter, or I like whatever. You are like some other kind of species, I'm this species. How are we even related? Understand, brothers and sisters, if we're going to take anything away from this ayah, Allah intended it for it to be this way. Because you have something to gain, maybe to correct for them, maybe to benefit from them. Because Allah doesn't play around with these kinds of things. If He put this person in your life and there's an ayah in the Quran dedicated to it, then that means that we have to reshape our worldview towards our family. That mother or daughter or sister-in-law or whatever that we're too afraid to speak in front of because they're too judgmental, they too are put into our lives by Allah. And of course, today's topic is just about family, but this extends to which community we live in, which community we're invited to, which community members we have to go and talk to. All of this is, in some way or another, engineered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that you or they come out with some kind of a benefit. And we see with Baneen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us with the sons of Yaqub, also with Hafada, with what some translations put as grandkids, right? Yaqub alayhi salam goes through years, decades of crying for Yusuf alayhi salam, but now he's even noticed that his family is so toxic, he can't say the name of Yusuf. The first time he does say the name of Yusuf, which we see in the Quran much, much later, the brothers have an allergic reaction. Tallahi tafta'u tadhkuru Yusuf. Oh my God, you and your Yusuf, you're never going to forget Yusuf, huh? We thought we taught you a lesson. Don't mention that name around here again. Sometimes it's the kids who talk to parents this way. Sometimes it's the parents who talk to kids this way. And they make sure that they have full authority that... What do I need to say, brothers and sisters? Sometimes, if there wasn't a partition over here between us, going back to husbands and wives, sometimes husbands have a look towards their wives. The wife knows that once we get into the car, he's going to have something to say. Hey, don't get any ideas from what this Maulana is saying. Okay? Nothing changes between us. Or maybe it's the wife who goes and gives the look to the husband. Nothing changes between us. Okay, if you don't want anything to change, declare this ayah to be something that Allah didn't reveal. That's my challenge. If you don't want to benefit from Allah, just openly say, this is not something that Rasulullah actually brought. Or bring a better interpretation. Why don't you do that? Please. Because this, brothers and sisters, is troubling. What we see between all different kinds of relationships. Whether it's mother-son, mother-daughter, father-son, father-daughter, husband-wife, in-laws, kids, grandkids. Nothing has been spared. Shaitan has attacked us from every which way that he could. And Allah has given us something. He's given us a way to change our perspective. Banin, when his kids are away in Egypt, he says, I smell the fragrance of Yusuf. All that happened was the caravan started moving. And what does Yaqub say? He says, I know that you will be calling me names. It's okay. I smell what I smell. You're going to say, you're senile. You're smelling old man smells. Some of our doctors here can confirm that there is such a thing as, old people smell. Well, all of us will have to go through it one day. He goes and preempts young grandkids. I know you're going to talk to me this way. I'm going to say it anyway. I don't fear anything. I smell Yusuf. And what do they say? Exactly how Yaqub predicted, that they're going to hurt him. They go and say, you are in your old era. Meaning you're an old man and you're just going through your old nostalgia. You have Alzheimer's. This is how you talk to a prophet. This is how you talk to your grandfather. The patriarch of your community. This kind of a patriarch called Yaqub. Our generations have become so bold that if we have grandma or grandpa staying over, they don't reply to salams. It's become so bad that if you go and tell your kid to go and hug grandma, why? Why should I? Because of her, you got to have money to get tickets to the game. Oh, I thought that's what grandpa was for. He was just for money. This is what we're having to face. It's very sad, brothers and sisters. It's very sad. What do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, صلوا عليه وعلى Allah then goes and says, وَرَزَقَكُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. All of this is rizq for you from good sources. You did your homework when you were getting married. You did the homework of what kind of family you were marrying into. Now that you have the usual problems, you're coming back to me and becoming a kafir of ni'mah. Kufran and ni'mah. That's what Allah says. وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if you go down this path, you are walking with batil beliefs. Batil not in the sense of shirk, not in the sense of you have some other love other than Allah. But here, you have denied one of the signs of Allah. Meaning through these family members, you were supposed to see how Allah goes and brings the most opposite of ends to make you see that there is a God. This God put you and you together. One day maybe you won't have a job. And your next job comes through who? Your wife's, aunt's, best friend's son. Don't we sometimes get through things that we call wasita, right? Connections in the community. Sometimes we get employment from there. Sometimes we get marriage proposals from there. Sometimes we even get ilm from there. And we would never have gotten to that kind of connection were it not for some kind of a family relationship. Oh, this person is your mother's grandfather's best friend. Maybe my mother was. I'm afraid that I'm speaking what some teenagers are thinking. My mother was useful after all. We should have been having these kinds of thoughts about our parents had we had this mindset, seeing them as a puzzle to unlock, seeing them as what benefit could they have for me. Not what niqmah are they for me, what ni'mah are they for me. Because if all you see them as is a curse, that's all they will become. You start to deny anything that comes out of their mouth, even if they are correct. Yaqub alayhi salam does not see his sons this way. Yaqub alayhi salam does not see his grandchildren this way. He's like, okay, one day when Yusuf does come back to me, they'll have no choice but to go and apologize to me. I'm not going to ruin my relationship, even though for 4 decades they have been maligning me. Who do you think our role model is then in this situation, brothers and sisters? Yaqub alayhi salam. And who else but this patient man who has this thorn pricking at his eye every single day when he knows that these sons are the ones who kidnapped and sold his son into child trafficking into a non-Muslim country? Who else learns from this other than the woman who we're going to commemorate tonight, Bibi Zainab, who even when Ibn Ziyad, even when the likes of Yazid asked her, how do you view what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to your family? She can confidently say, because she has this type of mindset, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. I saw nothing but beauty. This isn't just like how we were mentioning from night number 2 from the Mawlanist perspective, where Allah can go and take 7 billion people's wills and still His will, His mission will be accomplished, where the people will be awakened by Imam Hussein's Shahada, and although the tyrant in Sham wanted something different, it completely backfired, and Islam became more radiant and more alive than ever. Not just that. Not just that. What we also saw from Bibi Zainab's beautiful stance and her beautiful patience. What does Yaqub keep on saying? Sabran Jameel. You know, grammatically this doesn't even make sense. Sabran Jameel, that's not a full sentence. Patience that is beautiful, or patience beautiful. It's because he's so choked up and so brokenhearted he can't say anything else. He says, all that's left for me, because you guys are trying to gaslight me, trying to make, sell me on this wolf story, even though there's no tears in the shirt, I have nothing else I can resort to except وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أَشْكُو حُزْنِي إِلَّا اللَّهِ. I have no one left to turn to but Allah. Who does Zainab have except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Everyone has left her on a night like this. On a night like this, Zainab alayhi salam was tasked with keeping the women and the children together. At one moment she sees that a girl named Sukaina is gone. Where is she? She looks all over the tents. And when she finally finds her, she's sitting by the body of her father, Imam Hussein. I don't know, brothers and sisters, if she was able to hug that body. How do you hug a body that has arrows all over it, like a hedgehog, like a porcupine? She eventually comes over to Sukaina and she says, my daughter, what are you doing? She says, I am yatim now. I just want to be able to go to sleep tonight. I never have been able to go to sleep unless it was on my father's chest. Now the enemies have not even left a chest for me to even in his death go and sleep on. Brothers and sisters, I don't know if this is before or after the horses were done with him, because after the horses are done with him, there isn't even something recognizable as a chest. But then she comes and takes Sukaina back to the tents. And by now there's someone else who's missing, who's gone to a different part of the battlefield. Who is it this time? Ramla, the mother of Qasim. And she goes and she starts looking, she finds her in the battlefield as well. And she sees that she is just lying down next to the body of her son Qasim. And she's just going through his hair and combing it like a mother would. I wonder, brothers and sisters, those of you who have kids, have you, and inshallah you never have this thought, but maybe just tonight, just to feel one portion of what Ramla felt. Look at your children when they are sleeping, still and maybe not breathing. And imagine them, God forbid, at a moment where you do not have them anymore. This is what Ramla has to feel. God forbid she sees her son before he is, or after he is decapitated by the army of Umar bin Sa'ad. How do you even recognize your son, brothers and sisters, without the head? Zainab comes up to her and she has to be strong for her as well, and she says, Ramla, come back to the tent. It's not safe for you out here. Someone might whip you with a spear. Someone might whip you with a whip. She says, I put everything I had into this son. I know that they're going to take us to Kufa and Sham tomorrow. Please let me have these few minutes with my son Qasim. These are the last few minutes I will have before Zain al-Abidin comes back and buries him. I will never see him again until the day of judgment. Eventually she even brings Ramla back. Now someone else is missing and she's trying to look for her. She's not in the battlefield. This baby was buried behind the tents of Karbala. This one is Rabab. And she goes and says, Rabab, what is the matter with you? She says, now that, before we come to Rabab, this great lady shouts to Umar bin Sa'ad, now that Hussein is dead, at least give the children some water. They're dying from thirst. There's another daughter, brothers and sisters, besides Sukaina, who is Ruqayya, younger than Sukaina, 3-4 years old. She gets the water from Umar bin Sa'ad, and she runs like how a young 3 or 4-year-old would run to her father. And Zainab catches her. Where are you going, daughter? My father died thirsty, auntie, don't you know? I want to go and quench his thirst. No, my daughter, don't you know? We have a generous grandfather. As soon as the knife touched him, he already had his cup from Jannah. You drink this water. Now that the water has been given, Rabab starts to feel the milk coming. Only the mothers can understand this. Now she starts to feel the milk available for her infant. Well, what can she do? She doesn't have an infant anymore. She goes quickly to the tent and and then she remembers, what did Abu Abdullah do? He gave her a decapitated infant corpse. And Zainab has to go and round her up to, what's wrong? The tents are on fire now. Why aren't you with us? What's happening? She says, it's in motherly instinct. I have milk now, but I have no baby. When I had a baby, I didn't have milk. I didn't have water. If only I didn't ask Imam al-Hussein to go and take him towards the enemies, maybe I would have a baby now. Once Bibi Zainab has all of the women together, she goes and she prays her Salat al-Layl. But Imam Zain al-Abidin notices that she is praying sitting. My aunt, why are you praying sitting? She says, Sajjad, after tonight, after what I saw today, I have no more strength. I have nothing left. Everything has been taken away from me. But now I'm trying to derive some strength from Salat al-Layl. Once she has a little bit of strength, brothers and sisters, there is one person who did not say the farewell, who did not get to say goodbye to his sister for the final time because they expected him to come back with the water. When Imam al-Hussein came back, he told her where she could find her brother. Now that she has some of the divine strength, she goes and walks quietly and silently towards her brother. And what state does she find her brother in? An arrow in his eye. Brothers and sisters, when you read the parable of Jesus, that there's a thorn in the eye. Imagine a thorn in your thumb, between the forefinger and the thumb. How much does this small little splinter hurt you? How much does it hurt you when someone else is pierced with that splinter? Now think of Zainab when she sees a spear and a three-headed arrow in his eye and arrows in his chest. Now is when she finally gets to say her final salams to her brother. The final thing, brothers and sisters, that I want to tell you about Zainab is a sad story indeed. What is it? After everything is done, after Kufa is done, after Sham is done, after they've come back to Karbala on the 40th, now they come back to Medina. I wonder, brothers and sisters, if you have ever had a guest stay with you for a number of days, and then you take them to the airport, and then when you come back home, you feel a sort of emptiness in your heart. Now think of Zainab. This is the place where Ali al-Akbar used to sit and talk to her. This is the place where Abbas used to come and greet her with his salams and then come and serve her in her house. This is the Musalla of Imam al-Hussein, still laid out, where he would pray and lead the prayers when he was in her house. The prayer mat is still laid out and the soil and the turba is still there. But where is he? There are two empty beds where her two sons, Aoun and Muhammad, used to sleep, where she would go and tuck them in every night. But where are they now? Assalamu alayka ya Zainab al-Kubra. Inna lillah وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Raise your hands, brothers and sisters. The nights of power are still amongst us. Don't go and underestimate these nights. And read with me that blessed ayah of the Quran. Imagine anyone in your family, if they are sick right now, any friends of yours who are sick, any of your friends who need help with job, employment, who need help with getting married, who have children who need help getting married. This ayah has done wonders. So recite with me, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب Louder everyone, louder! المضطر إذا دعا
ويكشف السوء
فشفاء المرضى أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا لتعجيل الفرج أمن يجيب اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأكرم 10 times all together يا الله 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 اللهم بفاطمة